When America says traditional, it's often code for whitewash. You think Thanksgiving was invented by pilgrims? That backyard barbecue just happened? That your New Year's black-eyed peas are just Southern superstition? Wrong. Black folks invented entire meal traditions that shaped this country, built rituals, created ceremonies, turned food into resistance, and then someone decided to erase them, sanitize them, slap a generic Southern label on them, and call it a day. But here's what they didn't count on. You can't kill what lives in memory. You can't erase what gets passed down at Sunday dinner. From secret Christmas feasts to backyard barbecue rituals, from fish fry Fridays to Sunday dinner ceremonies that kept families whole, we're diving into 10 food traditions America tried to erase, but couldn't. These aren't just meals, they're strategies, survival tactics wrapped in flavor, community bonds disguised as potlucks, African memory encoded into American ingredients. This isn't about what was eaten, it's about what was built, what was preserved, what refused to die. Because here's the truth, they don't teach you. When you erase a people's food traditions, you erase their survival, their genius, their soul. So let's take it back, one tradition at a time. Let's start with a question. Why do black families eat black-eyed peas on New Year's Day? Go ahead, ask your grandmother. She'll tell you it's for luck, for prosperity, for a good year ahead. But that's not the whole story. That's the sanitized version, the one that survived. Hoppin' John, black-eyed peas with rice, usually some pork, always some love, wasn't just dinner. It was a New Year's lottery of hope right there on your plate. The peas, luck. Each one represented a coin, a blessing, a chance. The greens, wealth, the color of money, the promise of abundance. The cornbread, gold, actual gold, prosperity you could taste. This came from West Africa. Communities that used food as prophecy, as prayer, as power. When you ate specific things at specific times, you weren't just feeding your body, you were feeding your future. Enslaved people brought this knowledge across the Middle Passage, adapted it, preserved it, passed it down through generations who needed hope more than they needed anything else. And here's what America did, turned it into folklore, cute Southern tradition, lucky little superstition. But it was never superstition, it was resistance. It was saying, we will survive this year, we will prosper this year, we will eat like kings this year, even if the system says we're nothing. That's not luck, that's revolution served cold. A backyard barbecue in Black America wasn't just grilling, it was reclaiming space, reclaiming flavor, reclaiming freedom. You ever wonder why barbecues feel different in Black neighborhoods? Why they're bigger, louder, more ceremonial? Why there's always that uncle with the secret sauce and that aunt who's been marinating since Tuesday? Because it's not about the meat. It never was. After emancipation, Black communities needed gathering spaces, places where they controlled the narrative, where they could celebrate without permission, where freedom tasted like smoke and looked like family. Pig pickings, whole hogs roasted slow, everybody getting a piece became those spaces. Not just meals, ceremonies, celebrations of survival. This came straight from West Africa. Communal cooking wasn't just efficient, it was spiritual. You fed the village, you strengthened the village, you broke bread together, you broke chains together. When enslaved people gained freedom, they took that knowledge and turned it into parties. Juneteenth barbecues, family reunion cookouts, block party grill-offs, every single one saying the same thing. We're still here, we're still together, and we're still cooking like kings. But America looked at that and saw, what, a cookout? Casual weekend grilling? Nah. They saw resistance disguised as ribs, community building masked as potato salad, culture preservation smoked low and slow, and they've been trying to franchise it ever since. Sweet potato pie, not pumpkin, sweet potato. And if you don't know the difference, you're missing the entire point. Sweet potato pie was a declaration. It showed up at Christmas, at Easter, at Thanksgiving tables where Black families carved out their own meaning. During slavery, sweet potatoes were survival food, cheap, easy to grow, kept you alive when the system tried to starve you. But after emancipation, sweet potatoes became celebration food. You took that survival crop and added sugar, expensive sugar you had to buy with your own money, added spices, added butter, added time and love and intention. You turned poverty into luxury, scarcity into abundance, oppression into art. Sweet potato pie wasn't just dessert, it was a statement. We survived, we're celebrating, and we're doing it with more flavor than you ever gave us credit for. This is what resistance looks like when it's baked at 350 degrees. And every Christmas, every Easter, every family gathering where that pie shows up, golden brown, perfectly spiced, still warm from the oven, it's carrying that message forward. We're still here, we're still sweet, and we're still too much for you to handle. Fish Fry Friday.
Not just cheap eats, not just a church fundraiser.
A weekly social summit flavored with faith and fried magic. Here's how it worked. Friday night, every week, Black communities gathered. Sometimes at churches, sometimes at somebody's house. Sometimes at that spot everybody knew about, but nobody could quite give directions to. They fried fish, catfish mostly, whiting if you were fancy, served it with hot sauce, white bread, and whatever side dishes the church ladies brought. And everybody came. Everybody. Young, old, saved, unsaved. Because Fish Fry Friday wasn't about religion, though it started there with Lent, with Catholic influence, with Friday abstinence from meat. It was about community. This came from African coastal traditions. Communities built around fishing, around sharing the catch, around nobody eating until everybody eats. In America, black folks took that ancestral knowledge and merged it with Christian practice, made it their own, turned Friday into the day you could count on seeing your people, catching up, solving problems, building networks. Fish Fry Friday was the original social network, analog, efficient, delicious, and it still runs in cities across America every Friday like clockwork, because some traditions refuse to die, especially when they're fried golden brown. Sunday dinner. The OG family board meeting, except the agenda included greens, cornbread, and stories that built a people. You know the drill. Church lets out. Everybody heads home. The aunties start pulling dishes out the oven because they've been cooking since Saturday night. The uncles gather in the living room pretending they're not waiting to eat. The kids get warned 17 times not to touch anything yet. And then the table. Sunday dinner wasn't just about food. It was about ritual. Sacred, intentional, non-negotiable ritual. You sat down together. You prayed together. And that prayer wasn't performative. It was protective. It was grounding. You passed dishes in a specific order. You made sure elders ate first. You made sure kids got enough. You made sure everybody got seconds. And while you ate, you talked. Not small talk, real talk. Who's struggling? Who needs help? What happened at church? What's happening in the neighborhood? What grandma remembers from when she was young? This is how history got preserved. Oral history passed down between bites of cornbread. Lessons disguised as gossip. Survival strategies wrapped in mac and cheese. Sunday dinner was culture preservation disguised as a meal. It was the moment every week where black families reminded themselves, we are people, we have roots, we have future. And the food was the vehicle, the excuse, the sacred center that made everything else possible. You can't erase what gets passed down at the table. You can try, but the table remembers. Real quick, if you're vibing with this content and you want to help us keep uncovering stories like this, leave a subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep going. We've got 5 more traditions to cover, and your support makes sure these stories don't get buried again. Now let's get back to it. A pig's head at Christmas. You're already making a face, aren't you? Stop, because what you're looking at isn't grotesque. It's ancestral. It's sacred. It's respect served on a platter. In West Africa, serving the head of an animal was an honor. It meant prosperity, wholeness, the idea that you had so much abundance you could present the entire creature. Nothing hidden, nothing wasted, nothing apologized for. When enslaved people were forced to America, they brought that symbolism with them, protected it, adapted it. And at Christmas, the one day many enslaved people got off work, the one day they could cook for themselves, they prepared pig's head. Not because they were given garbage cuts. I mean, they were, but they transformed those garbage cuts into something meaningful, something ceremonial, something that said, we remember who we are. After emancipation, pig's head stayed on Christmas tables in Southern black communities. Not everywhere, but in families that remembered, that held on. My grandmother used to say, you eat the head to have a good head on your shoulders in the new year. You eat the whole thing to be whole. You share it to keep family whole. That's not superstition, that's philosophy. That's African metaphysics adapted to American oppression and surviving anyway. So when you see that pig's head, when you see traditions that make you uncomfortable, remember, it's not about your comfort. It's about continuity, about memory, about respect. Show some. The hottest sauce in town wasn't just for spice, it was a coded family heirloom. Every black family has that relative, the one with the hot sauce recipe, the one who won't tell you what's in it, the one who brings bottles to family functions and watches people sweat. You think it's just peppers? Just vinegar? Nah, that bottle is carrying generations. African fermentation techniques passed mother to daughter to granddaughter. Preservation methods that kept food safe before refrigeration existed. Flavor profiles that connect to specific regions, specific villages, specific memories. In West Africa, sauces weren't condiments. They were medicine. They were status. They were identity. Each family had their own blend. Each community had their own peppers. You could tell where someone was from by how they seasoned their food. When enslaved people arrived in America, they couldn't bring much, but they brought knowledge. They found new peppers, adapted, created, and they kept the recipes secret. Not because they were stingy, because those recipes were cultural capital. They were power in a system that tried to strip everything else away. Pass down the hot sauce, pass down the history, protect the recipe, protect the lineage. Today, you see that same instinct. Families still won't tell you what's in the sauce, still bottle it by hand, still pass it down with ceremony, because the sauce isn't just flavor. It's memory that burns. It's heritage you can taste. It's resistance you can bottle. And yeah, it'll put some hair hair on your chest. The church kitchen, where faith met flavor and everyone got a seat at the table. If you grew up in a black church, you know the service is about salvation, but the meal is about survival. After church lets out, after the preacher has preached and the choir has sung and the deacons have deaconed, everybody heads downstairs to the fellowship hall, to the basement, to wherever the church ladies have been cooking since sunrise. And there's always food, always. Doesn't matter if it's 50 people or 500. There's food, stews, rice, greens, cornbread, chicken, mac and cheese, sweet tea, pound cake, all of it made by volunteers who showed up at 6 a.m. because this is what you do. This is ministry. This tradition came straight from Africa. Communal feeding wasn't charity, it was obligation. You fed the village because you were part of the village. You contributed because you'd be contributed to when you needed it. In America, black churches became the center of community. During slavery, they were meeting places. After emancipation, they were organizing centers. During Jim Crow, they were sanctuaries. During the civil rights movement, they were headquarters. And through all of that, the church kitchen kept running, feeding people, binding people, making sure nobody went hungry. This is what mutual aid looks like when it's seasoned with love and served on paper plates. Faith might save your soul, but church food saves your life. Cornbread and beans wasn't just cheap staples. It was community currency. It was tradition baked into every bite. In rural black communities, especially after emancipation, especially when families got their own land, harvest time meant celebration time, meant gathering time. You'd spend months growing corn, growing beans, working land that finally belonged to you. And when harvest came, you didn't just collect crops and go home. You threw a festival. Cornbread and bean festivals weren't formal events with permits and sponsorships. They were organic. Somebody's field, somebody's yard. Everybody bringing what they grew. Everybody cooking what they knew. This came from African agricultural traditions. Communities that celebrated harvest because harvest meant survival. That honored the land because the land honored them. That shared abundance because abundance was meant to be shared. In America, black farmers took that knowledge and applied it to new crops. Corn from indigenous peoples. Beans that thrived in southern soil. Combined them, their own. And at these festivals, you did more than eat. You traded seeds. You shared farming techniques. You arranged marriages. You settled disputes. You made plans for the next season. Cornbread and beans weren't just food. They were the excuse for community to happen. The center around which everything else orbited. Of course, mainstream culture erased this, reduced it to poor people food, stripped the context, ignored the ceremony. But in communities that remember, these festivals still happen. Smaller now, quieter, but still there. Still celebrating what the land gives, still gathering around what grows, still honoring the connection between soil, survival, and soul. Crawfish boils, block parties with a side of survival, where everyone gets a tale, a story, and a lesson. If you've ever been to a proper crawfish boil in a black community along the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, you know it's not just about the food, it's about the gathering, the preparation, the ceremony of dumping 10 pounds of crawfish onto newspaper and everybody diving in with their bare hands. This tradition came from West African coastal communities, places where fishing wasn't just an industry, it was identity, where the catch got shared, where nobody ate until everybody ate, where preparing seafood was a communal art form. When enslaved Africans were forced to the Gulf Coast, they brought those traditions. They recognized the water, recognized the rhythms, recognized the possibility, and they built something beautiful. Crawfish boils became celebrations, fundraisers, family reunions, Juneteenth parties, regular Tuesday nights because somebody had a good week and wanted to share it. You'd boil crawfish, corn, potatoes, sausage, everything together, seasoned so heavy you could taste it 3 days later. Dump it on a table. Everybody grabs a spot. Everybody eats. Everybody talks. And while you're eating, you're connecting, teaching kids how to crack the shell, sharing gossip, making plans, solving problems, building networks that keep the community strong. This is what African food culture looked like when it got space to breathe, when it got coast and water and community and freedom. Crawfish boils weren't just meals. They were maps. They showed black folks how to build community from the water up, how to celebrate survival, how to pass down techniques, how to stay whole. America looked at this and saw what? A party? A casual get-together? Nah, it saw resistance, it saw self-sufficiency, it saw people who didn't need permission to gather, to celebrate, to be. And that tradition still going strong. Every spring, every summer, every time somebody fires up that propane burner and drops those crawfish in. Because some traditions refuse to die, especially when they taste this good. 10 traditions, 10 stories America tried to bury under the word Southern or traditional or just silence. New Year's Hoppin' John, backyard barbecues, sweet potato pie, fish fry Fridays, Sunday dinners, pig's head ceremonies, hot sauce recipes, church communal meals, harvest festivals, crawfish boils. These weren't just meals. They were never just meals. They were survival strategies coded into flavor, community bonds disguised as potlucks, African memory adapted to American ingredients, resistance served on paper plates, culture preservation masked as grandma's cooking. And when you erase that history, when you strip the context, sanitize the origin, turn ceremonies into stereotypes, you do more than disrespect the past. You rob the present, you steal the future, because food is more than sustenance. Food is memory. Food is identity. Food is how we tell ourselves who we are when everything else tries to tell us who we're not. Every dish on this list survived because people refused to let it die. Grandmothers who taught their daughters who taught their daughters. Communities that gathered even when gathering was dangerous. Families that protected recipes like they protected names, like they protected souls. And here's what America didn't count on. You can erase documents. You can rewrite textbooks. You can sanitize movies and control narratives and whitewash history books. But you can't erase what lives in muscle memory, what gets passed down at the table, what tastes like home, what smells like love, what feels like continuity. These traditions survived because they had to, because they were bigger than food, because they were how a people stayed people when the system said they were nothing. So it's time, past time, that we stop calling it Southern food and start calling it what it is. Black genius, African adaptation, American resistance, survival cuisine from the most creative, resilient, brilliant people this country tried to break. They tried to erase it. They failed. So here's my question for you. Which hidden black food tradition should we uncover next? The Gullah Geechee rice kingdoms? The actual origins of barbecue that nobody wants to admit? The black bakers who invented half your favorite desserts? Soul food during the Great Migration? Drop it in the comments. Let's make sure the next generation knows these stories, knows where their food came from, knows who created it, knows what it meant. Because when you erase a people's food traditions, you erase their survival, their brilliance, their soul. And that's exactly why we're here, to make sure that never happens again, to take it back, one meal at a time.